Hi, it's Angie D. Lee, your intimacy guru. So today we are going to talk about reigniting intimacy after infidelity. So I really wanted to do a video on this because a lot of couples that I work with, a lot of the things that are typically at the root of some of their issues stems from infidelity. And so I really wanted to talk about this because I know that this is one of those topics that's it's really hard to kind of work through and talk about comfortably. There's a lot of emotions that go along with infidelity: shame, disappointment, confusion, anger, distrust, so many things that can come out of infidelity. But also on the brighter side, if a couple is truly serious about working through it together, there can be definitely a rekindling of a connection and excitement again for the relationship. So I really wanted to talk about this because I know this is not exactly a topic you just walk up to somebody and start talking about or sharing with them about how much you've been hurt, or just feeling despair, and just a feeling of wanting to give up after a situation like this, and just ultimately like just distrust of anyone. It really sheds a lot of light on a lot of things sometimes that's going on in a relationship. And so I know it's, again, not the easiest thing to be able to talk about or even ask about. So I thought it would be really cool to make a video so that you can watch this in your own, private time, and just kind of digest this information without it being such a public issue or public knowledge to other people. So I just want to start off too, before I go into this video, I also want to put a disclaimer out there. Okay, so this video is not for anyone that feels that infidelity is a deal breaker for them. So if infidelity is just totally like your deal breaker, it's like, I don't deal with that. It's a wrap if something like that happens, or you just feel like, no, that's a non-negotiable for me. I don't deal with infidelity in a relationship. That's okay, and you are totally entitled to that, entitled how you feel, and it's definitely respected. So obviously this video may not be for you if you're not considering rekindling and restoring a relationship after infidelity, but you may know someone else that would benefit from this. So feel free to share that with them. And so just wanted to put that disclaimer out there. And then also I just wanted to let you know that even after infidelity, there is hope and there's light at the end of the tunnel for those who are serious about regaining that closeness and that intimacy and that trust after experiencing infidelity. So let's start off first with, what is infidelity? Because see, that's the question. Infidelity is basically one of those things that it really depends on the nature and the boundaries of the relationship. So what one couple may feel as infidelity, the next couple may not see it that way, and vice versa. So the biggest thing first is defining what infidelity is. And a lot of times when we think of infidelity, it's just mainly that there has been some emotional and physical boundaries that have been crossed. That's really all it is. And again, that all depends on the couple on what those boundaries are. So first, we just have to recognize that, again, infidelity is all about the emotional and physical boundaries that have been crossed within a relationship and have actually included outside people in the relationship without another partner's knowledge. So that's why I wanted to just kind of put that out there first in terms of what infidelity is. And if you have experienced that on some level, then more than likely this video is for you. And so a lot of times when we think of infidelity, we automatically think of having sex with someone else outside of the relationship without the partner's knowledge or consent. When in actuality, infidelity is a very broad term, And it's kind of like on a spectrum, so to speak, or under an umbrella of things. So for instance, infidelity can be considered, yes, having sex with someone else outside of your relationship, outside of your marriage, without the other partner being aware and consenting to it. Also, it could mean some emotional connections going on with someone outside of the marriage or relationship without the partner's knowledge. There can just be some boundaries that you feel that are being crossed, such as your partner is talking at length with someone else in an emotional or sexual context, via online or texting or on the phone. It could be liking and loving tons of pictures on social media of someone and making comments about them, maybe in a sexual manner or something that, again, crosses the boundaries within your relationship. But it all depends on how you all have defined infidelity. And one thing that I've really noticed working with couples in terms of infidelity is that these conversations usually have not come up prior to the infidelity. And what I mean by that is a lot of times people get into relationships and marriage with an assumption that this is what we're going to do, but a conversation was never had. So a conversation has never been had in regards to, this makes me feel uncomfortable, and that's what I consider as boundaries being crossed or infidelity or, whatever in that sense. And a lot of couples are not talking about that prior to, so then they're caught off guard when something happens. And then when they explain their frustration to their partner, they're like, I thought you should have, you should have just known that. Like who would not know that that was not okay to do? And again, it could be even like having excessive conversations via text with someone outside of your marriage in an emotional or sexual context. It could be, conversing with them late at night when your partner is asleep or out working or something like that, meeting up with people for coffee, dinner, lunch, whatever, alone, without your partner's knowledge, meet it up in hotel rooms. I'm just throwing out examples, okay? Because we all know that these things happen, and I am not gonna sugarcoat any of that for this video. I really want us to really get in deep with this topic because this is something that a lot of couples are dealing with and are not discussing and are suffering in silence. So don't worry, I'm gonna do all the talking for you. How about that? So then that way you don't have to feel like being put on the spot or being the one to have to address this. I'm gonna address it, okay? So just kind of look at me like a little bit of like your virtual therapist for a minute because we're definitely gonna talk about that. So we talked about the disclaimer, of course. So just see if this video applies to you. If it doesn't, that's okay. You can dismiss yourself. But if you want to know more about it, stay tuned and continue to watch the video. We also talked about the definition of infidelity, okay, and how that really depends on the couple and what has been defined. And I also shared that a lot of couples do experience a certain level of infidelity because they haven't even talked about what their boundaries are in a relationship. And then they're surprised and shocked that things are happening, okay? So when we're talking about getting back on track and rekindling that intimacy after infidelity, I know you're like, well, where do I start, okay? The first thing we have to really make sure of is that both people want to move forward with each other and they want to grow and evolve past the infidelity. If that is not there, the rest of this video is not gonna matter. Okay, so both parties have to be willing to say, I want this. I want to move forward with you. I want to be with you. So that has to be at the forefront. Okay, again, this video is just not gonna do anything for you until we acknowledge that part first. Okay, so that's the first thing. Okay, so you have to want this. You have to want to move forward together. And you can want it and not know how to do it. That's okay. As long as the desire is there, we can move through the next few steps, but you have to want this. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing is we have to kind of define or discuss how the infidelity transpired in the first place, okay? Now, this does not give the couple leeway to blame each other, So let's get that out the way now, okay? Because I know that sometimes, we may look at it like, well, they weren't doing this and he wasn't doing this for me and she wasn't doing that. So that's why I did this. So that doesn't apply, because when it's all said and done, you're still a consenting adult that can make their own decisions. You are still making a choice to participate in the infidelity. So let's take away the reason I did this was because my partner didn't do this. That's not going to be an option in this, because again, you are a consenting adult in your right mind that can make your own decisions, and you chose to participate in the infidelity. There are other ways that you could have addressed your needs and your concerns and wants with your partner, as opposed to participating in the infidelity. Okay, so let's not blame the partner for the action of the infidelity. We're going to talk about how we got to this point, but we can't blame each other for actually making a choice. That is unfair. So that's the second thing. So we have to recognize and start looking at, how did we end up here in the first place? And a lot of times the reason how we end up in spaces where infidelity occurs, okay, so it's a little bit of a slippery slope, because yes, you're not blaming your partner, but we do have to recognize that both yourself and your partner typically do play a role in creating a gap within the relationship that causes someone to feel that like it's okay to go down this road. And I also want to make mention too that even if you are in an open marriage or poly relationship, infidelity can still occur, because again, it's based off of the boundaries that you all have set for each other. And if you have crossed that line, or you stepped outside of that boundary sexually or emotionally with someone else outside of your marriage or relationship without their consent, that would still be considered infidelity. The difference with open marriages or relationships, poly relationships, is that there's an awareness and there's been a discussion that yes, we participate with other people outside of this in a sexual or emotional manner, or both, but we're both aware of that. But now if you have specific, boundaries or rules in regards to, yes, if I see someone else, I have to make you aware of that, who they are and things like that. If you don't do that, then that, and you still are meeting with that person or talking to that person outside of your partner's knowledge, then that can also be considered infidelity. So again, if you are participating or have participated in infidelity without, your partner's knowledge and things like that, it is not your partner's fault that you chose to do that. But again, there are moments where we create gaps, knowingly and unknowingly, in our relationships, that if they're not filled with the communication between you and your partner, and listening to each other, respecting each other, and wanting to be there and really kind of give each other what you desire, then yes, those gaps can grow bigger, and it makes it a little bit easier to fill in those gaps within the form of infidelity. Okay, so the next thing, in order to reignite, rekindle intimacy after infidelity, is that everyone has to be responsible and take some responsibility for the role that they play in some of the breakdown of the relationship or the marriage. Okay, so when I'm dealing with couples and there's one party that has chosen to participate in infidelity, and then there's the person that's just now finding out about it, what tends to happen in situations like that is one party is like, you were not doing what I asked you to do. And then the other party is like, well, you're not giving me what I need. And so now it's a lot of this back and forth, and the communication is no longer effective communication. You're just talking at each other, yelling at each other, throwing jabs, being disrespectful, going below the belt, just because emotions are running high and you're not hearing each other, you're not listening to each other, you're not understanding each other, you're not validating each other. So I'll give an example. If your love language, something that you desire, is physical touch and physical pleasure, sexual pleasure, and you enjoy having sexual intercourse and just physical pleasure with your partner, and every time you reach out to your partner they turn you down or they find an excuse not to have sex with you, or it's always a big argument that results in sex not occurring between the two of you, and you get highly frustrated and you yell at the person and you repeat that cycle over and over again, and then you get to a point where you get fed up and you're done, and then you step out with someone else and you have sex with them, then you're like, wait a minute, this is your fault because I told you what I wanted, when in actuality you were just yelling. You weren't effectively communicating. You weren't coming up with solutions around how to make this better. So if you know that your partner tends to go to sleep a lot earlier than yourself, but you want sex at like 12 a.m., but your partner is asleep by 9, then somehow you all have got to find a way to meet in the middle so that you can get with your partner when they're awake and they're ready and they're available. So that's what I mean by coming up with solutions and alternatives, because it's unfair to just constantly come to your partner about something you're desiring and clearly they're struggling with that. So now you have to figure out what the struggle is, and you all have to work together so that you all can both get what you want. Now, will you get it? Again, I always say this in like almost every video. Will you get it exactly the way you want it all the time? No. But the compromise comes in because both of you all are willing participants and you're trying to give each other what you desire and meeting in the middle. Okay, so that's a really important component of reigniting the intimacy after infidelity, because you have to understand, where was the breakdown in the first place? Where were you not getting a need met? Was it a physical touch? Was it I need to be affirmed, I need to be acknowledged, I need for you to show me some type of respect, I need more quality time with you, I need you to give me things, and all of these different things, if they're not being met by your partner and you don't know how to communicate that, or you think you're communicating it but you're really just yelling or complaining and now it's falling on deaf ears, then again that gap starts to just continue to widen and widen and widen, which makes it very easy for someone to come in, especially if they're doing the things that you desire. And we all know, like, that newness of a relationship is like a drug, right? So if someone is coming in, they're new, it's a fresh face, fresh attitude, fresh body, like all of that, it could be very enticing. But instead of putting that attention and that energy towards that other person, what is it that you all can do as a couple to come together and figure out how can we make this work? I know you want sex 5 days a week, but I only wanted 1. How can we meet in the middle? Those are conversations that need to be had. You don't, when your partner tells you I need 5 days a week of sex, and you say, well, I only want 1 day a week, so get over it. That's a complete shutdown. So you've totally shut down your partner in regards to what they want. And so that dismisses everything, and that makes a person feel unheard, unloved, unseen, and invalidated. So when someone else shows up and does those things for you, again, it's like a drug. It draws you in, because these are human needs. These are things that we all need in our lives, in our relationships. So we have to treat it as if it's something that's very important and it's vital to the life of the relationship. So when you look at it from that standpoint and trying your best not to look at doing something for your partner as a chore, but doing something because this is vital to them, this is what makes them feel alive, this is what makes them feel excited, this is what makes them feel loved. And so if both people are looking at each other like that and approaching the situation like that, you do tend to minimize. I didn't say it totally is extinct, but you minimize the possibility of a lot of people coming in and possibly you engaging in infidelity. Again, I just want to repeat that again, because nothing in life is foolproof, and that's the risk that we take in relationships. We have to learn to trust, and we have to choose to trust. But we also can show through our behaviors, that we are trying to be, with only you. And again, this is for right now, I'm speaking to the monogamous relationships, but even those that are participating in open marriages and poly relationships, there are still boundaries that have to be respected. And so those conversations have to be had on a very consistent basis. Okay, so definitely making sure that you understand your role, your responsibility in this. Because again, if someone has been cheating on you over and over again, and you don't typically express it, or you don't bring it to their attention in a respectful manner, and you allow it, then you are also participating in the infidelity continuously occurring. And that's hard to hear because, it puts that spotlight back on you, that there's still a role that you play as well in the infidelity. So just keep that in mind in regards to the different roles and the responsibilities that both partners have when it comes to infidelity as well. So definitely take that part and just kind of digest that a little bit, because sometimes people do struggle with, I didn't do this. They did that. They went out and cheated. I had nothing to do with that. Well, in actuality, it's not a blame game, but we do play a role in how we receive our partners too when they need something from us and we're not willing to listen. We're not willing to grow and evolve with them. We're not willing to meet them in the middle. I don't think anyone feels good about not getting their needs met. And I think we have this view sometimes when it comes to monogamy, like someone is just supposed to be monogamous because. And again, as a human being, if you're not getting certain needs met, eventually, you're going to hit a brick wall. You're going to get highly frustrated. And if your level of emotional intelligence or, and I won't even say willpower, because it's not always about willpower. It's about recognizing, what you do need and desire. No one should be putting that off to the side. You should not be feeling like I'm not supposed to get my needs met to some degree. Not everything, not 100%, but you're with your partner for a reason, because they can provide certain things for you. So it's always good to just, really take an account of that and think about the roles and responsibilities. Another thing is patience through this process, okay? Studies have shown that when it comes to infidelity, it typically can take anywhere from 18 months to 2 years for the person that has been cheated on to be able to really move past it, okay? So at least 2 years. So that is something to think about prior to, if you're engaging in certain activities and it's found out, it could take your partner that long to get fully past it. And even still, you're still going to remember it. It's still going to be in the back of your mind. But if you choose to stay in a relationship, it's going to take time. It's going to take patience. It's going to take a level of understanding that when a trigger occurs with your partner who has been hurt, they're going to bring it back up. The biggest thing I work with couples on is when you are triggered and you bring it up, always ask yourself, number one, do you feel like this person is still engaging in this behavior based off their actions? Because you'll never know for sure what a person is doing when you're not around them. So you have to choose to trust. So the way that you can choose to trust is based off their actions. That's where you have to come up with you all's new set of boundaries now. Now that this has occurred, we have to revisit our boundaries and look at what's going to help us move forward and not feel triggered by the infidelity. So if you know that you like to go out with friends and it's pretty late and coming in at 2, 3 in the morning, now the boundary may be, you know what, I can go out with friends, but I probably should be in no later than midnight. Okay, another boundary may be when I'm out, if my partner just happens to, send me a text or call me, try to make a way to answer that text or call. Now, I'm not saying you should be at home calling your partner, back to back to back while they're out with friends or doing whatever, because that could be a little stalkerish and it's not giving them an opportunity to allow you to trust them. Okay, so we have to be back in certain environments and situations. We can't stay at home all the time after an infidelity has occurred. Eventually, we're going to start resuming our lifestyle, and within that lifestyle, you have to create the boundaries that says, okay, I am going to go to work and I may see this person, or I might go to church and I might see that person that I was engaging in this activity with. But when you call me or you text me, I will answer. I will not ignore your calls. I'll come in by a certain time. If you're married, you may say, hey, you know what? If you're going out with friends, try your best to do more so of going out with, other married friends. And even then, sometimes other married friends are engaging in different activities and different things like that. And that's something that you'll never be able to fully control. But at the same time, what you can do is create some sense of boundaries within that. Now, if you create those boundaries and things still occur after that you're not okay with, okay, and they've crossed that line, those boundaries that you both have set, then that's a different conversation now. You've put some things into place, and now they've participated in infidelity again. Then you have to decide, are you going to continue on with this behavior? And ultimately, are you going to continue on in the relationship or the marriage? Okay, so once you find that out, that's up to you in terms of moving forward. Okay, so creating those boundaries is extremely important to moving forward within the relationship, healing from the infidelity so that you can rekindle the intimacy. Okay, and then I also say scheduling one-on-one time, quality time with your partner, because it's almost like you all have to get to know each other again. When infidelity occurs, what ends up happening is you start feeling like you don't even know this person anymore. Like, how could you even do that? Like, who are you? And so now it's getting back to really learning each other again, dating again, and talking about things that matter to you. You all cannot be afraid or scared to say what you desire. And when that person tells you what they desire, don't get all up in arms about something that you don't really vibe with or agree with. Just explain, I'm not quite there yet, but maybe we can do this. It's always good to offer an alternative. And I bring this up mainly in the form of like sex a lot. When one partner is looking to engage in some activities that's a little bit more exciting, or you want to add different things to the equation that was not there, or you want to try these new positions and things like that. And if you're not fully comfortable with that, it's okay to say that. But also, I think it's important to provide alternatives of things that you would be open to trying. This is so important, you all, because if you're in a long-term relationship, you're going to want to explore your partner in as many ways as you can, and there's nothing wrong with that. So when you close yourself off to that with your partner, it can create a void, and it can make your partner feel just really not appreciated and even unloved. So you have to always keep that in the back of your mind, that, if you say no to something or you brush someone off, every single time, you're adding to the list of you not being available to them. And that hurts. And instead of sometimes, instead of lashing out when you're hurt, tell that person you're hurt. Like, I'm hurting because I want to share this with you. And when you tell me no, and when you turn over and you go to sleep, and that hurts my feelings. And I say this again too for people that aren't as emotional, and in their response. Tap into a little bit of that emotion and tell someone, your partner, how you feel. That it feels some kind of way to you. Everyone has feelings, okay? Everyone. Some express it in different ways, but we all have feelings about things, and you have to be able to feel comfortable sharing how something makes you feel. So the quality time is so important, and not just for quality time, like, oh, okay, we're gonna go kick it, at a movie, or watch a show at home or something like that. Those things are great. But creating a space of quality time where you all can really almost get to know each other all over again. Start fresh, because I always look at infidelity as an opportunity, in a sense, to start over, to create whole new rules and all of that for your relationship, and say, you know what, that was the old, that dies away there. But now this is a new relationship, it's fresh. I want to start something new. You know, like sometimes you've been in a situation, whether it's like a job or organization, and it just really like did a number on you, but then you start over and you go to a new place of employment, a new organization, and it just feels good because it's fresh, is new. So go into your relationship with that mindset too. Like, infidelity is like, that was the first half of our relationship and that's dead and gone. Now we're creating something totally new, a clean slate, where we get to rewrite our rules and expectations, not based off what other people think or what the world thinks, but we're going to create what works for us. And you may actually find that making these new rules and boundaries, you might actually find you are a little bit more flexible in certain things, and you're not as rigid in your thinking or your approach to the relationship. But it all depends on the two of you. But you have to be willing to not only communicate, you have to be willing to listen, understand, and validate each other. So that's like my acronym, LOVE, L-U-V. Listen, understand, and validate each other. And those things will really start to rekindle the intimacy within your relationship after infidelity. Because again, these are real issues that a lot of people are facing and they're just not talking about, and they're shocked when things happen. But you have to be willing to communicate with your partner about what is it that's lacking, and what is it that you need from me to feel listened to, understood, and validated. So take some time to think about that. Think about the areas that you may need to work on in your relationship as you're dealing with recovering from infidelity. Because again, this is a very, very real topic that's happening a lot in relationships, and it doesn't need to be taboo. It doesn't need to be swept under the rug. Let's talk about it. Let's be open about these things so that we can grow and move past it and get that intimacy back on track. Alrighty, so let me know your thoughts. I'd love to hear what's going on with you all. If you're uncomfortable with sharing this on social media, of course, anything like that, definitely, reach out to me. Email me, Angie@angiedlee.com, and you're like, I got some questions. Like, I need to talk about this and I need to figure out what to do. Just email me so we can schedule you for a consultation, and so that we can really kind of get to the root of what's going on so that you can grow and evolve beyond infidelity and rekindle that intimacy. Alrighty, so I look forward to hearing from you all soon.